Alright. Hey guys, it's LS, and this is going to be the mid-season 2017, I guess, review. I'm going to give my thoughts on the changes that are revealed inside of this announcement. Just going to comment on the wallpaper. I find it pretty interesting. Yeah. I don't think there's too much more else to say about this, although I do see feminists having quite a nice time with this. But anyways, we're going to move in to the tank update. So Sejuani, the Winter's Wrath. So, alright, let's click read more. I'm not going to click the goals and directions. We're just going to look at stuff. So, Frost Armor. After not taking damage for a brief period, Sejuani becomes immune to slows and gains bonus resistances. Frost Armor lingers briefly after taking damage. Frost Armor refreshes faster with Sejuani's movement. So we can just take a look at exactly what it is that happens. So she's immune to slows. So this is nice. The first thing I can think of is this is mostly great against like Thresh, right? Because of the box. That's the first immediate thing that comes into mind. But for the most part, I feel like the only thing that's nice here is that the bonus resistances. I feel like the immunity to slows is not really that big, although maybe it lets her take something else inside of the mastery trees because she doesn't need the tenacity. But I don't know. I feel like this is just like a novelty passive, and I'm really curious exactly how much gold it's going to be worth, because sometimes I talk about champions and they basically don't have passives. For instance, Shyvana. Like, Shyvana does not actually have a passive for the most part. And it's quite bad to look at Shyvana and see her passive compared to other champions that exist inside of the game. Another champion that has a really bad passive is Wukong. And it just ends up, making you ask yourself, well, why is that a passive? So anyways, moving on. Arctic Assault. This is basically the same. This is still Sejuani's charge. W, Winter's Wrath. This is the one that's really interesting. So the range on it seems pretty nice. It's a cone, like Annie's W and Mordekaiser's, what is it, Siphon of Destruction or something? I don't even know the name of it. Sejuani swings her mace in front of her and then slams down the line. Both swings deal damage and apply frost. Okay. Permafrost. So this one's interesting as well. So she hits the champion. Sejuani's basic attacks apply frost on champions and large monsters. Nearby allied melee champions also gain this effect. Frost stacks up to 4 times. So she has synergy with melee champions, rather than just ranged champions or something. Active, Sejuani damages, stuns, and freezes enemy target with max frost stacks. Sejuani's first attack or ability against a frozen enemy deals a portion of their maximum health as damage. So that's sort of nice. R, Glacial Prison. Sejuani throws her True Ice Bola, which damages, stuns, and freezes the target first champion hit with the based on the distance traveled. Long-range bolas leave behind an ice storm that slows enemies erupting after a brief delay to damage and massively slow enemies except the original target. So the first thing that comes to mind is if Smithy can finally play Sejuani again. And outside of that, I feel like the changes to her kit are nice, but I don't exactly know how impactful it is overall. I think that her ratios and her numbers are going to be really important, and I think that changes that maybe happen to, I don't know, masteries or items are going to make it important for Sejuani, because I think that these changes, just off the top of my head, maybe aren't good enough. Although the passive thing with melee champions is sort of nice, because there are obviously a lot of melee champions that are in the game, both in top and in mid, and even in support. Maybe there's going to be more melee comeback. So overall, the Sejuani changes are so-so. I think that there's still a lot of questions that I still have, and I need to see her numbers. And I need to also see what else happens to other champions in 7.9, 7.10, etc. Because these changes alone do not make Sejuani a versus all type champion. So that's all that I have to say on her. Moving on to Zac, the secret weapon. I just gotta point out that I thought this guy is like made of jello, and yet they're making him like Majin Buu, where apparently it's not jello, and there's like muscle here now, and that's just actually kind of weird. And then for some reason, it looks like Fiddlesticks might be his father, and so I really wonder exactly like what's happening here, but I'm not gonna ask too many questions. So passive cell division, this is basically kept the same. So after he dies or whatever, he still splits up, and that's sort of nice. Okay, and now Q. Stretching strikes. Zack's arm stretches and grabs the first enemy it hits, damaging and slowing them. Zack's next basic attack gains bonus range, and if Zack attacks a different enemy, he'll throw both targets towards each other, dealing damage in the area if they collide. Now, this Q is also more interesting, right? Because it says attacks a different enemy. Does that mean like a minion works as well? Or is it just an enemy champion? And the other thing is that this is a little bit bonkers inside of a team fight, because that is going to be enormous amounts of fucking CC. And if it is a minion as well, then that means that top lane Zack actually might be viable, because this is really ridiculous, actually. So I really like the new Q. W, Unstable Matter, is basically kept the same. E, Elastic Slingshot, this is kept the same as well. And now the really interesting thing is his R, which is the Let's Bounce. So he charges up just like Elastic Slingshot, and then if minions are, or enemies, enemy champions are on top of him, he will bring them with him. And so obviously the first immediate thought is that he Elastic Slingshots into R into bringing the enemies back into his team. And so this is super interesting in a lot of ways, because what it ends up doing is that champions that need to be protected and they need to be in the backline, I actually really like how they include Kog'Maw in this this review, or this spotlight, whatever you want to call it, is like if they have a backline that you can't get to, Zack can bring them to your front line. And I think that this really changes things up, especially if you have heavy engage and heavy dive type champions like an Echo, for instance, or if you have like a Nautilus or something like that could definitely benefit from being able to approach the front line a lot easier. And I think that this also provides a lot of utility and advantage to, if your team has a backline, because now, your backline can actually hit what's supposed to be their backline, because they're in range for it and it's very easy from a kiting perspective. So I think that his ultimate change is really neat, because I think that Zack's current ultimate is a little bit of a joke. And I think that this ultimate with the synergy on E is really fucking scary, and I think that it's something that people are definitely going to have to respect. And I just like it. I think that the utility is great. So Sejuani, I still think is pretty much garbage, but I think that the Zack changes are super fucking fantastic. And again, as long as there's some other nice stuff that can happen in terms of itemization changes or masteries or other champions becoming relevant, etc., then I think that this will definitely help make Zack a lot better. So yeah. Let's see. Maokai. Okay. The Twisted Tree. Treant. Yeah, there you go. Sap Magic. So this passive is basically the same. Difference is Maokai's basic attack periodically heal him. Sap Magic cooldown is reduced for each spell Maokai casts or is struck by. Okay. Q, Bramble Smash. This is still the same exact thing. Twisted Advance. This is still the same exact thing. Point and click. Sapling Toss. So this one's different. Sapling Toss. Maokai flings a sapling to stand watch over an area. Saplings chase nearby enemies, exploding if they come in contact and slowing everything hit. Saplings placed in a brush last longer and deal additional damage over time. Okay. R, Nature's Grasp. So they took away his damage reduction ultimate, which I think that's basically what Maokai was known for. And now he has this giant tidal wave Nami type thing. I mean, it's basically a Nami ultimate at the end of the day, right? Except it can only hit one enemy and then it roots them. Which I guess you could argue is maybe better than the knock-up, but, well, no. Can you even say that that's better than the knock-up? I'm trying to think. It just feels like Nami. It's like Nami comes out of the jungle, It's like you're wondering who Nami slept with. Like, why does Nami have crabs? Why are there things moving around down there? And that's basically all that I think of when I see this ultimate. The question that I have is, can you actually move in between this small area? Like, if you're good enough, if you're quick enough, can you actually dodge the thorns? The other thing is that it's really slow. it took away Maokai's identity as an anti-tank, or an anti-carry. And then I feel like the way that they changed him, obviously he's now more catered to being a jungler, I think. Depending on how his E actually interacts with his clears now, and like what it can mean for clearing the jungle, what's his sustain going to be like, but obviously we also need to see his ratios. I think that the sap magic stuff change is leaving much to be desired. I don't know. I feel like the Maokai rework thing here is pretty bad, and I don't like it. So out of the 3 champions that they showed, I only like Zac. I think that Sejuani and Maokai's changes are a little bit underwhelming. Doesn't mean that I don't think that Maokai or Sejuani can be played, obviously, but just the preview leaves me with a lot of questions, because I think that their ratios are really important, and what that means for them inside of the jungle and stuff. In terms of top lane, though, I don't know if these changes really help Maokai up in top. I feel like the sapling toss is able to be played around in top lane now that it has some sort of a gimmicky reliance on side of brushes. I think that gimmicky reliance on like brushes and stuff like this is also bad, because you see this happen with some other champions as well, where it's a little bit unrealistic to expect them to be able to pull this stuff off at the higher levels of play. Obviously in solo queue, though, it's going to be nice. And I think that's pretty much it for Maokai. So now we'll move down and we'll go into the items. New options. We're plugging some holes in our defensive itemization lineup with 2 new additions. Gargoyle Stoneplate. This one's for the team fighters. Chain Vest plus Negatron Cloak. Armor, magic resist, and unique passive Stone Skin. If 3 enemy champions are nearby, gain bonus resistances. Unique active, Metallicize. Temporary gain health and size, but deal reduced damage. If Stone Skin is active, the health increase is massively boosted. So the first thing that comes to mind here is this is like a Tom Kench item. This is obviously a Galio item. I mean, it has Gargoyle in the fucking name thing. This is obviously a Galio item because he doesn't need to deal damage anyway. He's just a massive CC and utility bot that he doesn't need to pack a punch because his teammates will do it for him. It's another gigantic Scion buff. So Scion, Tom Kench, Galio. I can't see like Trundle picking. I can't see the pseudo tanks picking this up, but I can see the true tanks picking it up. The ones that are meant to just do endless amounts of utility and be beneficial for their teammates. The other thing is Nautilus, I think, sometimes picks this up, and then Nautilus sometimes doesn't pick this up. I don't think this is necessarily going to be a core item on Nautilus. I think that it's going to be a situational item. Because obviously, yeah, he really likes the utility and stuff, but Nautilus also has the ability to dish out a lot of damage in team fights, depending on what type of team composition he's up against. So if there's a situation that presents itself where Nautilus is actually able to deal damage, I think that maybe he would stay away from the Gargoyle Stoneplate. But other than that, I think that it's pretty fine. I think obviously Sejuani probably benefits from this quite a lot. Zac probably benefits from this quite a lot because it doesn't have anything that he wouldn't like inside of it. So I think that that's really great. I'm trying to think of other champions that would obviously benefit from this. Malphite, I guess, to a certain extent. I guess you can ult in, and then the Stone Skin active will obviously be fantastic for Malphite. Trying to think of other champions off the top of my head that would really like this. I guess Mundo. Mundo would probably like this a lot. Yeah, Mundo would probably like this a lot, but I think that situationally on Mundo, probably Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai would definitely probably like this a lot. Yeah. So then obviously the other question is, does the damage reduced, does the damage reduced stop true damage? Because if it doesn't stop true damage, then obviously Cho'Gath and Darius would really like this item a lot. But if it does actually somehow reduce their true damage, then I think that becomes problematic. So I think that's pretty much it. for that item. So I think that's a really nice, cool, neat new item. I basically see this going more so on the initial champions that I listed as well. Maybe Thresh, like on support, could pick this up, although that would be pretty thin. I think that it depends on the item's cost. Probably Braum would like this as well from the support role. I don't think that like Alistar would actually need this item. I think that would be a little bit overkill on Alistar. And yeah. Alright, now let's pick up Adaptive Helm. For the tank who's sick of being hit with the same spell again and again. Spectre's Call plus Null Magic Mantle. Health, Magic Resist, Base Health Regeneration, plus Cooldown Reduction. So it sounds like Mundo's Wet Dream. This also sounds like it's really good on Galio. Taking magic damage from a spell reduces subsequent magic damage taken by that spell within a brief window. Okay, so Teemo gets completely fucking cucked in lane. That feels bad, man, for Teemo. That feels really bad for Teemo, who's like he's trying to bully Mundo, or he's trying to bully Galio, or he's trying to bully any tank top that, you know, itemizes MR. Teemo's gonna be pretty bad. Cassiopeia is gonna obviously be hurt. There's a lot of champions that are going to be really, really hurt by this item. Obviously, this stands out as being like Galio, Mundo item, Shen, even depending on certain matchups. This is going to be a Shen item. This would have been a Wet Dream for the previous Maokai. I feel like this is going to be fantastic for Zac. It's going to be great for Sejuani. It might be really good for, you know, other types of jungler type tanks, etc. Skarner, whatever, the cooldown reduction obviously going to be fantastic there. And yeah, I think that this item is really neat, and I think that it provides a nice, true magic resistance route that isn't just Spirit Visage or something against certain team comps, because ever since the removal of that item that was in the game before I even played, because I came in Season 4, there was some item that was like a blue breastplate or something, and I think that it was meant for like anti-magic, and they took that out of the game. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. So I think that this is sort of nice in that regard, so I like the item. Guardian Angel. Some passive, sharper edges. Longsword, pickaxe, cloth armor. Upon taking lethal damage, revive with a portion of base health and a mana after a delay. So the immediate thought that I have here is that it doesn't give magic resistance anymore, so it obviously hurts some tanks. The problem, however, though, is that this is a wet dream for some champions. Fiora absolutely loves this. Kled is absolutely in love with it. Obviously, AD carries are going to have a fantastic time with this. And this is going to make assassins really hate their life. Especially because now this can actually be itemized as like a third item or something on ADCs if they're really far ahead. So, you know, if they have multiple kills and they're actually scaling really well and the enemy team is under a lot of pressure, down multiple turrets, down a few drakes, etc., you can just pick up a Guardian Angel third item now because you're not actually losing out on too much combat stats. The first thing, though, that, like I said, it came to mind was Kled. Kled loves this, Fiora loves this, Darius is going to absolutely love this. Any of the AD tanks that like to stick to you are going to love this. Obviously, Aatrox probably likes this as well, even though he's an abomination. There's just a lot of champions that are really going to like this, and I think that you combine this with like other anti-assassin type items and whatnot, and like Edge of Night already really covers the magic resist department and the spell absorption, etc. I think that this is great. Another champion that's going to love this as well is Rengar. Kha'Zix is going to love this. Jesus, I like every single time I say Kha'Zix, I have to think about saying Kha'Zix because my immediate, way of saying his name is Kha'Zix. But yeah. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it for those champions, at least off the top of my head. Can't think of any other. Oh, Jax. Jax is going to love this item. Jax is going to be in love with it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for those champs. So I really like the 3 new items. I think that they do add more diversity. And I really like this route that Riot takes. I wish that there was more items in the game that made it very difficult to just have clear set build order paths, because I think that adds skill. If they overload the item inventory and they just have so many different things that are so specific for niche situations or relative to how the game is going, I think that that's fantastic. Because what can end up happening is you can have the same 10 champions like inside of a game, and yet you can have different end game inventory screens because they were itemizing, you know, relative to game flow and stuff. And I think that type of gameplay interaction is really healthy. So, yeah. Okay, so I like how they said non-tank pickup, but this is definitely still a tank pickup. Team contributions, so support quests, Ancient Coin. Borrow a skill point from your future self. Gain an elixir that grants a skill point when consumed. You still have a maximum 18 skill points per game, meaning you'll finish leveling your abilities at level 17. Takedowns on enemy champions grant gold and restore mana. This is obviously really big because it's really, really difficult to say exactly how important it is to go from 17 to 18 as a support late game. It's almost something that you can't really put a value on. And when you factor in the base stats and the base scaling, you have to also consider that because it's very unlikely that supports actually reach level 18. So let's say that, you know, another item would give you, or I don't know, let's say that, you know, going from 17 to 18 gives you 120 HP or something, and then obviously you get the extra skill point, and you get the extra base AD, extra mana, extra armor, magic resist, whatever it is that you have. You have to really just view the upgrade as something like that, rather than just going up one level, because it's very unlikely that, you know, the opposing support will actually get that level. Relic Shield line. Get another shield from your shield. Gain a shield that regenerates while out of combat. Punching people makes the shield regenerate faster. That's obviously fantastic for the likes of Braum, Tom Kench, Alistar. Obviously all melee supports are going to love that. Spellthief's Edge. Move faster when you poke people. Tribute procs grant a burst of movement speed. This is obviously really great for, you know, ranged poke supports. It's also probably good on Teemo in his own way, up in top lane. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how this interacts. I like the changes to all three support items. I think that the real question, though, is you know, obviously this one has diminishing returns eventually, where if the opponent does actually just get the level up in the end, then this Ancient Coin line is obviously inherently worse than these two at the end of the day. So this is like a get more ahead type item. And obviously in some situations it's going to be a balancer where it gives you a temporary edge or like a spike. It's going to be more in line with spiking. I think that the Relic Shield one is really, really cool, and I think that the Spellthief's Edge line is also nice, but I think that it's very niche, and I think that people are going to overestimate exactly how impactful this type of a passive is. I think that the best passive here is definitely going to be Relic Shield, for sure, at least out of the three. I think that in competitive, Ancient Coin has the possibility to be stronger than Relic Shield, but I think that Relic Shield is going to be the most stable one, followed up by Ancient Coin in competitive, and then by Spellthief's Edge. I think in solo queue, I think that Relic Shield line will be the best, followed by Spellthief's Edge, followed by Ancient Coin, because people don't know how to make use of a level advantage or like what that really means. Contribution clarity. League's not the best at recognizing accomplishments that don't involve killing people. That makes it hard for non-carries to get recognition they deserve. We're giving these groups better ways to track and celebrate their successes. I really like this stuff because these are this is data that is very difficult to track. So I think that all of these changes are really nice, and you can check them out for yourselves. I think that this is fantastic. And I like seeing the stuff at the end game source screen, and also on items like, you know, Lock into the Solari and stuff, tracking how much damage you've absorbed and whatever else. Rift Herald now drops Herald's eye item when defeated. Use the eye before it expires to bring back Rift Herald as a structure-smashing siege engine. As an ally, Rift Herald will push down the nearest lane, reducing enemy buildings to rubble unless forcibly stopped. Fighting against her in lane is similar to fighting her in the pit. Poke her in the eye to send her crying home to the void. So all that this really says to me is now everyone in the game can get a one-time use Mordekaiser ultimate. That's all that it really says. I'm really curious what are the stats going to be on the champion, because if it's actually the same way that it is in the pit, if this thing attacks champions, that's a little bit obnoxious, but if it just aimlessly attacks the turret and you just stand behind it and kill it, I guess that's not the end of the world. If you can use the elixir situationally, like you hold on to it until you're pushing, or if you can hold it until you have Baron and then you throw it in one lane while you push another lane, and you can initiate like a 4-1-1. Like imagine how that sounds. Like you have your split pusher in bottom lane, you have 4 people in top lane, and then you have Rift Herald in mid lane. I think if you can do stuff like that, like if the elixir doesn't have a timer as to when you use it, I think that stuff can actually be really creative. But yeah, I think that this change is actually super, super interesting, and definitely certain team compositions are going to be able to take advantage of it a lot better than others. So I don't mind this change. I think that it's nice. Honor update. We're currently working on a significant overhaul to the honor system due to ship later this year. The current honor system doesn't really enforce how valuable teamwork. Look, no one gives a ribbon to someone that kicks their ass. Okay? And no one gives a ribbon to someone that carries the ever-loving shit out of them, because that makes you feel worse because you said to yourself, that guy just carried me. And everyone below low MMR doesn't like saying that. A ribbon has and will probably always be an indicator of a bitch. Okay? I know that that's how it's perceived in Korea, because Koreans used to intentionally try to honor people that were really, really bad, so that they could just see the ribbon, you know, in the event that someone would try to like name change or something like that. And it was like, you know, the special marker that let you know, like, that guy is a bad player. And so that actually used to be a strategy that people used to do, and I don't care about the honor update. I think that it's really just bad. I guess that it's probably fine for like normals and people that play the game casually and stuff, and it probably makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. So in that regard, I think that it's probably healthy as League continues to grow and move forward and attract more and more of a you know, different type of audience and whatnot. 10 bans in solo queue. This is really good. I like that. Team competition, playing with League with normals and rank flex is one thing, but there's an opportunity to add a competitive experience into League, one different from the now ranked team queue. We want organized team to compete for rewards, but include an appeal to players of all skill levels. Think something along the lines of forming a team with your friends and entering an amateur tournament to get. This is fantastic. This is actually really great, and fucking credit to Riot. The only thing here, though, is, you know, challenger players fucking smurfing a silver game and making everyone hate their lives. Like, I think that these type of tournaments are probably going to need admins that make sure, like, okay, this guy is definitely not fucking silver. Because I can already see, like, the ragtag group of, like, EU West and NA people that are, like, memers on Twitter and stuff, and they have, like, all the Smurf accounts in silver and gold. They're just going to actually queue up for these tournaments and just make people hate their lives. And I think that's nice. Midseason Invitational, I think it kicks off, when is it? April 28th. That's really cool. That's in 9 days. And all in all, I think that all these updates are really nice. I'm still looking forward to seeing patch 7.9 and 7.10, and then I'll be able to make more comments, especially on these 3 champions, once I have more of an idea of what's happening to other champions in the game. So that's pretty much it for my thoughts on Midseason 2017.